Alright guys, welcome back for another chapter of 2 Samuel. We're in 2 Samuel chapter 19 where the header reads, Joab rebukes the king, and we'll jump right into it. Word soon reached Joab that the king was weeping and mourning for Absalom. As all the people heard of the king's deep grief for his son, the joy of that day's victory was turned into deep sadness. They crept back into the town that day as though they were ashamed and had deserted in battle. The king covered his face with his hands and kept on crying, "Oh, my son Absalom, oh, Absalom, my son, my son." Then Joab went to the king's room and said to him, "We saved your life today, and the lives of your sons, your daughters, and your wives and concubines. Yet you act like this, making us feel ashamed of ourselves. You seem to love those who hate you and hate those who love you. You have made it clear today that your commanders and troops mean nothing to you. It seems that if Absalom had lived and all of us had died, you would be pleased. Now go out there and congratulate your troops, for I swear by the Lord that if you don't go out, not a single one of them will remain here tonight. Then you will be worse off than ever before." So the king went out and took his seat at the town gate, and as the news spread throughout the town that he was there, everyone went to him. Meanwhile, the Israelites who had supported Absalom fled to their homes, and throughout all the tribes of Israel there was much discussion and argument going on. The people were saying, "The king rescued us from our enemies and saved us from the Philistines, but Absalom chased him out of the country. Now Absalom, who we anointed to rule over us, is dead. Why not ask David to come back and be our king again?" Then King David sent Zadok and Abiathar, the priests, to say to the elders of Judah, "Why are you the last ones to welcome back the king into his palace? For I have heard that all Israel is ready. You are my relatives, my own tribe, my own flesh and blood. So why are you the last ones to welcome back the king?" And David told them to tell Amasa, "Since you are my own flesh and blood, like Joab, may God strike me and even kill me if I do not appoint you as commander of my army in his place." Then Amasa convinced all the men of Judah, and they responded unanimously. They sent word to the king, "Return to us and bring back all who are with you." So the king started back to Jerusalem, and when he arrived at the Jordan River, the people of Judah came to Gilgal to meet him and escort him across the river. Shimei, son of Gera, the man from Bahurim in Benjamin, hurried across with the men of Judah to welcome King David. 1,000 other men from the tribe of Benjamin were with him, including Ziba, the chief servant of the house of Saul, and Ziba's 15 sons and 20 servants. They rushed down to the Jordan to meet the king. They crossed the shallows of the Jordan to bring the king's household across the river, helping him in every way they could. As the king was about to cross the river, Shimei fell down before him. "My lord the king, please forgive me," he pleaded. "Forget the terrible thing your servant did when you left Jerusalem. May the king put it out of his mind. I know how much I sinned. That is why I have come here today, the very first person in all Israel, to greet my lord the king." Then Abishai, son of Zeruiah, said, "Shimei should die, for he cursed the Lord's anointed king." "Who asked your opinion, you sons of Zeruiah?" David exclaimed. "Why have you become my adversary today? This is not a day for execution, for today I am once again the king of Israel." Then, turning to Shimei, David vowed, "Your life will be spared." Now, Mephibosheth, Saul's grandson, came down from Jerusalem to meet the king. He had not cared for his feet, trimmed his beard, or washed his clothes since the day the king left Jerusalem. "Why didn't you come with me, Mephibosheth?" the king asked him. Mephibosheth replied, "My lord the king, my servant Ziba deceived me. I told him, 'Saddle my donkey, so I can go with the king, for as you know I am crippled.' Ziba has slandered me by saying that I refused to come. But I know that my lord the king is like an angel of God, so do what you think is best. All my relatives and I could expect only death from you, my lord, but instead you have honored me by allowing me to eat at your table. What more can I ask?" "You've said enough," David replied. "I've decided that you and Ziba will divide your land equally between you." "Give him all of it," Mephibosheth said. "I'm content just to have you safely back again, my lord the king." Barzillai of Gilead had come down from Rogelim to escort the king across the Jordan. He was very old, 80 years of age, and very wealthy. He was the one who had provided food for the king during his stay in Mahanaim. "Come across with me and live in Jerusalem," the king said to Barzillai. "I will take care of you there." "No," he replied, "I'm far too old to go with the king to Jerusalem. I'm 80 years old today, and I can no longer enjoy anything. Food and wine are no longer tasty, and I cannot hear the singers as they sing. I would only be a burden to my lord the king. Just to go across the Jordan River with the king is all the honor I need. Then let me return again to die in my own town, where my father and mother are buried. But here is your servant, my son Kimham. Let him go with my lord the king and receive whatever you want to give him." "Good," the king agreed. "Kimham will go with me, and I will help him in any way you would like, and I will do for you anything you want." So all the people crossed the Jordan with the king. After David had blessed Barzillai and kissed him, Barzillai returned his own home. The king then crossed over to Gilgal, taking Kimham with him. All the troops of Judah and half the troops of Israel escorted the king on his way. But all the men of Israel complained to the king. "The men of Judah stole the king and didn't give us the honor of helping take him and helping. They didn't give us the honor of helping take you, your household, and all your men across the Jordan." The men of Judah replied, "The king is one of our own kinsmen. Why should this make you angry? We haven't eaten any of the king's food or received any special favors." "But there are 10 tribes in Israel," the others replied. "So we have 10 times as much right to the king as you do. What right do you have to treat us with such contempt? Weren't we the first to speak of bringing him back to our king again, to be our king again?" The argument continued back and forth, and the men of Judah spoke even more harshly than the men of Israel. Oh. And that's the end of chapter 19. Goodness, I don't know where my mind was for the reading of that. I kind of struggled to stay focused, and I lost some focus on some of the lines, but it's been a long day. So, with that being said, that reflection, I appreciate that David has a heart for forgiveness in a time to where so much blood has already been spilled. I find it contemptible that the men of Israel, the tribes, the warriors, if you will, because those are the ones that it looks like they're identified as escorting David, would be so petty as far as who is holding honors or who has time with David as he returns to a position that it seems like they all kind of participated in him being exiled. And so I don't know if that is just shame that is driving that, or if it's truly a repentant and contrite heart. It doesn't seem like it as they kind of bicker back and forth. They kind of want to be able to be in his good graces again as he retains really his power that he's had this whole time and his anointing that never left him. And so I really struggle with that. I really struggle with understanding the timing of it all. You know, you see David here, his ascent to power and then his descent into so many times he was chased after by someone he loved and revered, really his own son, Saul, all those things. And when I think about that, I just think about just certain aspects of my life and how regardless of what I'm doing, sometimes I always feel like there's not enough, or I'm missing out on something, or just a lot of it. And it's hard to put into words because my faith has me believe that I could throw it all in the air and God's going to catch it. But there's another part of me that, what does it mean to be a good steward? How much of this is my needing to do? And when I see David, I wish it made it more clear for me, because sometimes that you can see how he's going about even the ruling of Israel. I feel like my house, that is my castle, my own Israel. And the influence or affluence that I have in the places that I come and go, how much of it requires me to make those decisions, to do those things? Or am I getting in God's way when I do it? Even the stewardship of my own house, even the money that I'm in control of that enters my house, whether it be through paychecks or whatever it might be, where am I supposed to end and where's he supposed to begin? I would argue at the very beginning, but then at one point, are my decisions, am I either increasing God's impact on my life, or am I decreasing it? And I only want to increase his impact on my life, his influence, his affluence. I want it to be through every single crack and crevice of my life. But I don't understand how to remove myself. I don't, especially as a father and a husband, at what point do my decisions, I just want everything to just permeate God. And sometimes I feel like my own discernment prevents me from just fully believing and just totally entrusting everything to God. Sometimes I feel like when I make a choice, was that God or was that me? And I just want to just ebb and flow with him so effortlessly. And I don't know if it'll ever be like that, at least not on this side of heaven. And so sometimes I find myself discouraged, especially when I come across turmoil, not to the extent that David does, with turmoil within his own house, and it's a life and death situation. But I just want to trust God in everything, so that I don't have to feel the way that I feel the majority of the time in pursuing more control or more finances or more of all of these worldly things. And so with that, I guess I'm just gonna try and give more to God, and sometimes I just don't know how to do it. So on that note, have a good night. God bless. I love you. Jesus loves you. And I'll be back for chapter 20 of 2 Samuel, where the header reads, The Revolt of Sheba. And so, have a good night and God bless, guys. I think I'm going to have to say a prayer tonight and I need my heart open to some answers right now. And so, with that, I'm going to be thankful and have a good night and God bless, guys. I'll see you tomorrow.